In the world of high-stakes politics and law, the roles can reverse in an instant. The hunter can become the hunted. Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, built a national profile as a relentless prosecutor, taking on powerful figures from the NRA to President Donald Trump. Her civil fraud case against Trump resulted in a staggering $500 million judgment. But now, the investigative lens has turned back on her. In an unprecedented move, the Department of Justice, now operating under an administration led by her political adversary, has launched not one, but two separate and deeply serious investigations. The first targets her office's conduct in its most famous cases. The second, a criminal probe, targets James herself for her personal financial dealings. This is the story of how a top state prosecutor ended up in the crosshairs of federal authorities, a story that blurs the lines between justice and political retribution.
First, let's break down the investigation into the New York Attorney General's office itself. According to multiple reports citing well-placed sources, the DOJ's Civil Rights Division has issued subpoenas to James's office. This probe, reportedly approved by U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, is focused on the two cases that defined James's tenure: the civil fraud lawsuit against Donald Trump and the long-running case seeking to dissolve the National Rifle Association. The legal foundation for this investigation is a federal statute known as deprivation of rights under color of law. In simple terms, this law makes it a crime for anyone acting with government authority, like a prosecutor or a police officer, to willfully violate a person's constitutional or federally protected rights. Historically, it's been used to prosecute things like police brutality or official misconduct. Here, the central question being explored by a federal grand jury in Albany is whether the Attorney General's office abused its power. Sources suggest investigators are examining whether the case against Mr. Trump was pursued not on its legal merits alone, but as a fulfillment of a campaign promise, a form of political targeting that could potentially violate his rights. The allegation is explosive that the immense power of a state prosecutor was wielded against a political enemy simply out of personal animus. Investigators are reportedly looking into whether this constitutes a violation of free speech or due process rights.
James's legal team, led by the prominent attorney Abby Lowell, has come out swinging. Lowell described the investigation as the most blatant and desperate example of this administration carrying out the president's political retribution campaign. He framed the DOJ's actions as a direct attack on the rule of law and a dangerous escalation, arguing that it punishes an elected official for simply doing her job. Lowell added that if the DOJ is genuinely interested in the truth, we are ready and waiting with facts and the law, dismissing the allegations as baseless and long discredited. A spokesman for James's office, Jeff Bergen, echoed this, stating, "We stand strongly behind our successful litigation, and we will continue to stand up for New Yorkers' rights." For its part, the Department of Justice has maintained a strict no comment, which is standard procedure for ongoing investigations. As if that weren't enough, an entirely separate and arguably more perilous investigation is running in parallel. This is a criminal probe by the DOJ into Attorney General James herself, focusing on allegations of mortgage fraud. This appears to stem from a criminal referral from William J. Pulte, the director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency. There are two properties at the center of this. The first is a home in Norfolk, Virginia. Investigators are probing whether Ms. James misrepresented this property as her primary residence on loan documents to secure more favorable mortgage terms. The second is a 5-family building in Brooklyn, which was allegedly purchased with a loan intended only for properties with 4 units or less. A federal grand jury has reportedly been convened in Virginia to hear evidence on the Norfolk property, while the FBI is looking into the Brooklyn deal. To be clear, mortgage fraud is a common federal crime, but it's taken very seriously. It's defined as intentionally misrepresenting information on a mortgage application to a lender. As former U.S. Attorney Jay Town has explained, a grand jury doesn't convene without predication some form of evidence that a crime may have occurred. Claiming a property as a primary residence is a key detail, as lenders offer better interest rates because homeowners are statistically far less likely to default on the place they actually live. If proven, this offense carries staggering potential penalties. The maximum sentence for bank fraud is up to 30 years in federal prison. While average sentences are typically much lower, often between 2 to 4 years, the gravity of the charge for a state stop law enforcement officer cannot be overstated. Once again, Abby Lowell, James's attorney, has vehemently denied the allegations. He claims any mistakes on the mortgage applications were merely clerical errors that were subsequently corrected. He asserts that Miss James was clear that the Norfolk property was not her primary residence. For her part, Attorney General James has publicly labeled the entire affair a revenge tour, directly linking it to her successful prosecution of Donald Trump. This situation doesn't exist in a vacuum. It unfolds against the backdrop of an intensely polarized political climate where supporters of President Donald Trump have long called for his Justice Department to investigate those who investigated him. The former president himself has attacked James for years, calling her corrupt and demanding her resignation just months ago. This context makes it incredibly difficult to separate the legal merits from the political motivations for all parties involved. It is critical to emphasize that these investigations are in their early stages. A grand jury's purpose is not to determine guilt, but simply to decide if there is enough probable cause to issue an indictment, which is a formal charge. As of this recording, no charges have been filed and Attorney General James maintains her innocence. We are left with a collision of law and politics at the highest levels. Is this a legitimate inquiry into potential wrongdoing? Or is it a politically motivated campaign to neutralize a powerful opponent? The answers will only come as the legal process unfolds. We will continue to follow this story closely.